Greetings and salutations. I don't know what the hell's happened to my voice. What's going on? Hi, I'm Russ Kane. This is Men's Radio Station, and this is like the best hour of the week. Up there with the best hours of the week. Good God, it sounds terrible. What's the matter? I do apologize. I feel fine, but I don't know. This is the ABC of CBD. Week 83. And it's all due to the Count of Cannabinoids, the hunk of hemp. You know him. You love him. Ollie Mammon.
What's up, guys? Happy Thursday, everybody.
Happy Thursday indeed. How are you doing, fella?
I'm great. You sound like death.
You know, I feel fine. I don't know what's the matter, but don't worry about it. It's fine. Anyway, over to you because we have a very special guest today.
That's it. Considering Ross can't talk today, I get the mic to myself. It's fantastic. So about a year ago, I had the pleasure of going to Product Earth. Product Earth is an expo focused much more on the cultural side of the cannabis industry in the UK. Whilst I was at Product Earth, I met a gentleman by the name of Matt Clifton. Sorry?
I forgot to do the advert.
You're right. Pause on what I was just saying. Play the advert. I'll come back with my introduction in a second. I'm sure you've heard before that good quality CBD needs to be really, really expensive. This is the new view of CBD. A product created by users for users. A product at an affordable price, available everywhere, at any time, at the simple click of a button. Just CBD and MCT oil. No additives, no preservatives, and no flavor enhancers. It's a simple subscription-based service. The cleanest possible CBD delivered to your door for the lowest possible price. Your product, your rights for the lowest possible price. Kablamo. So, thank you for watching the advert, and thank you for sponsoring us, Tincture Club. Anyway, so on with the show. So about a year ago, I had the pleasure of going to Product Earth. Product Earth, like I said, is a culturally focused expo. It's a fantastic show if anyone ever wants to check it out. When I was at Product Earth, I met Matt Clifton, who's one of the organizers of the event, and we started speaking about, you know, what he's created, why he had created it, etc. And we discussed the idea of potentially doing a show. 12 months later, I actually have the luxury of having him on. It's Product Earth again in about 8 weeks' time. And we thought it'd be a good time to shine some spotlight on this event, to shine some spotlight on what will be happening, and also to focus a little bit on Matt's story, how he ended up, you know, getting involved in the expo side of the cannabis industry, and, you know, his general journey in our space. So if we can welcome on Matt, we can start our conversation.
Hello.
Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to the jungle.
I have heard this is somewhat jungle-like.
Yeah, it's a little bit
nonsense. Nonsense. He's a pussycat.
There are pussycats in the jungle.
Oh, there are. They're huge.
Yeah, huge. The biggest pussycats you've ever seen in your life. But there are pussycats in the jungle.
You're right. I'm an idiot. Bye.
Yeah, that's it. Bye, Russ. Bye, mate. So let's just start. Like the story of Matt Clifton. You know, your journey, your life, your story, your first interactions with medical cannabis, your first interactions with cannabis in general, how you ended up in this space. Because, you know, the average individual who doesn't have an affinity to cannabis very rarely finds themselves within the walls of the cannabis industry. So just to kind of get a bit of a background for viewers who don't know you, how you've ended up where you are, and a little bit about you.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, my story is a slightly abstract one, I guess, compared to a lot of the people that you see working in the recreational cannabis industry right now. I've worked in sales and marketing roles for 23 odd years, something like that, ranging from, you know, doing things like in-flight media, working for the Financial Times. And then I was very fortunate to be one of the first employees at Facebook outside of the US. I spent 12 years working there, where I'd kind of look after small and medium-sized businesses and help them use the platform as optimally as possible. But, you know, after 18-hour days, multiple flights every single week, and, you know, just not spending any time with your family, it's time to kind of move on. And I don't know how to put it delicately. I've smoked weed all my life. I absolutely love it.
This explains so much, Matt Clifton.
Matt, so have I, and so do I. Okay, just to make you feel comfortable.
You crazy kids.
But, yeah, so I've always been into cannabis. Recreationally, just thinking, well, this is great. I love getting high. But actually, when you start learning more about the plant and the various kind of applications, or hundreds of applications, and how much it can help people, you just realize that there's a massive opportunity there. Now, when I was at Facebook, I was very lucky. I was kind of afforded a lot of privileges because I was there pre-IPO. And so, when that IPO day did happen, apart from the absolute car crash that it was, over time, we managed to kind of make some money. And I started investing in things. And something I really wanted to invest in was the world of cannabis. And there was a chap called Gavin Satyanathan who I worked with at Facebook. And I found out that he was working in cannabis. I was like, Gav, you've got to find me an investment. This is something I really want to get into. And he came back and he says, look, I've got the thing for you. It took him a couple of years, but he came back to me eventually.
It's good though. It took a couple of years because the amount of people who turn around and say, well, you should invest in this. And next thing you know, like the worst advice you've ever given someone, and they've basically just lost more money than everyone has on Bitcoin. Do you know what I mean? That happens a lot in our industry. For example, just because I love throwing this out there, you've got like, what's it called? Cellular Goods. I think that's what it's called. David Beckham's brand. I mean, like, that's the number one thing. Everyone thought our golden booted child is going to create a company, going to get involved in the company, which is going to take us all to a stratosphere of another level wealth. And literally, day it IPO'd, it crashed. So, I mean, there's so many
the interesting thing, Ollie, is, and we've talked about this in previous shows, is that just shoving on a celebrity onto a brand is no guarantee that the brand is actually going to fare well. And I know I always make the analogy, because I'm not like you guys, but with whiskey, because he is the face of Club Blue, which is Haig's brand. I'm sure it's nice, but if you're a whiskey aficionado, that's not a brand that you're going to go with.
Poor David. Seriously, poor David.
I don't
he can't get the alcoholics, he can't get the stoners. I mean, like, literally, if you're an addict in society, you are not supporting one of his brands, are you?
If
poor
only
guys.
he was affiliated with some kind of a sport somewhere along the line, and actually,
like maybe a shoe. That's what he should do. He should go down like the Jordan route. I mean, but I'm sure someone thought of this already. Sorry, David, if you're listening, we're just banner. It's just banner. We've got a lot of respect for you. You are a national treasure. Anyway, so.
Plus,
let's carry on before we get sued.
David Beckham managed to get the three of us when we were standing in the handsome queue. He just jumped in and got all three of our handsomeness allocation.
Bastard.
That's all I got to say about it. Yeah.
So you've always worked in like so you've worked in sales and media, but you've always kind of been in the community focused space, like working at Facebook, it's community focused and culturally focused. And so that's always been kind of, I want to say a reoccurring factor in your jobs has been this community element, this cultural element, which seems to be focused on.
Exactly. That's the connective tissue that kind of goes all the way through. I mean, at the earlier part of my career, I spent a lot of time working with big brands like Nestle and P&G and Unilever and Samsung, et cetera. And then in my kind of final years at Facebook, I got to work with these small and medium-sized businesses. And it's not to say I don't like working with big companies. I love it. But actually, small businesses do offer different kind of challenges. They work in very different ways. You're trying to speak to them about advertising, and they're also trying to pay the mailman and stuff like that just going on. Life doesn't stop. So you have to think a little bit more creatively, a huge community focus, and I got a real kick out of it. So there was that transition into the world of cannabis.
I was about to say, it's probably like everyone thinks this world of cannabis is a huge world, but in reality, it's very, very small. It's very incestuous. And actually, like this whole idea that people talk about cannabis like it's the tech industry, and it's not, like there aren't, like, yes, we are a formidable space which is growing rapidly, but in reality, we're still a very, very small space. Most companies have under 20 employees, and companies which have over 20 employees usually go bankrupt. It just seems to be what's happening in our industry. Companies are usually emotionally led, like the amount of big money in our industry, it is coming in, but it's not like the tech industry. There's not billions of dollars flying around.
Can I ask a question of both of you, really?
Of course.
I'd like to start with Matt. Is in most industries, certainly, in the radio industry, everyone thinks it's enormous. It's very small. We all kind of know each other. We work with each other. Same with books, same thing. But in both of those industries, reputation is everything. If you've got a bad reputation, it'll follow you around like a bad smell. Is it still, because you're a young industry, is reputation still very important, Matt?
Absolutely. It's every single decision that we make, we have to be very, very careful that we are doing something that is. Let me take a step back. So one of the things that I loved about Facebook was that it was mission driven. It was all about keeping the world more open and connected. We won't talk about the mission that they're on right now. It's obviously tempting a little bit, but that was good. And that glue, we really believed in it, and it kind of kept everyone together. So one of the first things that I kind of put in place when I joined the Product Earth team was a mission for us. And actually, similarly to how you were just talking about, people are putting celebrities' faces on CBD products. There's a very good reason for that, because it's just the Wild West out there. Every product that you pick up could be great, could be crap, might be what it says on the bottle, might not be. Is it full spectrum, broad spectrum? You just don't know. So when you find something and it works, you stick to it. And that's why I really like it. From when I've got my marketing hat on, it's like the marketing rules of yesteryear, where actually brand awareness is really, really important, and brand loyalty exists. I mean, in the real world, brand loyalty doesn't exist anymore. You're getting people like Unilever being derailed by like the Dollar Shave Club and stuff like that. And so being able to actually build brands and kind of get that cut through, get that share of voice is a really interesting marketing challenge. And so going back to what our mission is for Product Earth, we are trying to build a high quality and trustworthy industry that is good for the planet and everyone that inhabits it. And that means we must work with the right kind of people. It means that reputation is absolutely everything. One of the things we're rolling out this year, which I'm really excited about, is the new business zone. So we've selected 10 companies that have kind of applied. Actually, we're at 8 right now. Some of the people we've actually declined because we got sent products to test and see what they're like. And quite frankly, they weren't what they said on the tin. And we can't support brands that are doing that. We won't support bad actors. So yeah, reputation is absolutely everything.
It's very interesting. I'm wearing my marketing hat because I've been in marketing all my life, really, and advertising. I do apologize for my voice. I don't know what it is. Is that you're talking about brand loyalty. Over the last 2 years, that has taken a real hit. It still exists. I think things like Apple people will have brand loyalty if you like that, or Samsung.
It's not loyalty, it's addiction. So I think the brands which have loyalty,
it's a subtle difference.
Just hear me out here, Ross. Hear me out here.
Okay.
I think the brands which have loyalty in our market are addiction-based brands. For example, Coca-Cola still has loyalty. Why? Because people are addicted to Coca-Cola. Now, Apple have created something which is very smart. What they've created is a need to own their products. There's no want. There's no have to. It's a need. You are addicted to owning the new iPhone. Why? Because you feel socially inept if everyone around you has a brand new iPhone. No, this is the world. And this is what happens. This is why you have really poor parents who are going bankrupt every time Apple makes a new drop.
You've got to feel sorry for these people.
Because they've got to spend $4,000 on brand new phones or $6,500 on contracts over the next 2 years. It's a lot of money. Wow. And what happens is when you think about this, it is the addiction. Now, I've got people who I know who will buy the new iPhone every day it drops. Every time it drops, every 6 months, they upgrade all of their Apple. I've got a buddy who buys a new iPad every time the new iPad comes out. He trades in his old one, but he'll trade in his old one, which he just paid $1,000 for 300 quid, put 700 quid on top and buy the new one. Why? Because it's an addiction. He wants to be Mr. Apple, and you can't be Mr. Apple if you're wearing last year's stuff. It's a little bit like fashion. Like no one goes to Versace and buys off the rack last year's shit. You go to Versace and you buy this year's stuff. You spend your £15,000 on a white T-shirt, which is the same T-shirt as last year, but with the code of this year. Why? Because that's what you do. It's part of that fashion addiction.
It's desperate. I just find it desperate.
Because it's not you, Russ. It's not me as well.
I'm
pretty sure that Matt might like this. I think Matt might. I think Matt might be one of these guys.
I don't want to say anything, but that is last month's Versace.
I've got an iPhone 10.
You're
right. It's crazy. I don't understand why people still buy iPhone products, myself included, like Apple products, myself included, because I know that this phone isn't as good as a competitor, and yet I still buy it. I'm hooked. But
you know why I buy everything? Because it's so difficult to get my phone numbers onto a Samsung. I'm never going to do it. So they've created a way that it's either I have my contacts or I have a Samsung. It's physically impossible to have the best of both worlds. So they've got me. I'm addicted to them. I'm hooked. I'm officially hooked on Apple for the rest of my life.
What is clever, what they've done is they've said, put it into your head, every other product is inferior. But it's not true. But that is the preaching.
But what they've done with the iOS 14 update and beyond, I think, is sacrilege. You know, they've kind of shut down Facebook's technology and things like that, and the ability to create audiences and track people and optimize and report accurately, only to go and do the same thing themselves a year or two down the line. I think it's really poor form. If I had to bring the tone down a little bit, I think Apple
but it's the tech industry, isn't it? It's like, you know, burn your neighbor to then build a house on their property. Do you know what I mean? It's just but that's it. It's a real cutthroat world out there. I think the CBD industry is the same. To be honest with you, I think our industry is the same. I've seen people hurt their nearest and dearest in order to take the business from their nearest and dearest. It's a cutthroat industry, and the more competition there is, the more, you could call it, frustration there is, the more people do things that they wouldn't have done in yesteryear. And it's like I've seen it more on the, I want to call it, the capitalistic commercial side of the industry. You know, you see people almost cutting their nose to spite their face, and I think it's just the way of the world right now, isn't it? It's the way that we've gone really off track. So I'm going to try and get us back on track. Let me have a look at my little notes.
Let's get a seamless segue going.
We haven't. But hello, I'm back. We haven't. Ooh, in as much.
Look,
as,
this is Russ's real voice.
Then I got my proper voice back. Hooray! Just when you were doubting the existence of God.
Exactly.
We haven't, because you guys, because I have to stand on the sidelines. I'm not involved in your industry. Apart from taking all these products all the time, which are transformative, which are brilliant. I'm not just. I never endorse.
No, he is just saying that.
Ever.
I pay him to say that, guys. I literally pay. I gave him £1. I gave him £1.
Yeah, I'm so desperate. The pound would be, as it happens at the moment, that'd be useful. But you guys don't live in a bubble. You do live in the real world, and if you're looking to the future, you look in the real world. And those rules of marketing, of advertising, of reputation, of product quality, as delightful and charming as your industry may or may not be, they still apply. It's like saying I don't believe in gravity. Well, sadly, matey, gravity exists. You know, whatever you feel. So you just got to get on with it. So I don't think you were really that far. You didn't really stray that far.
I meant
Apple a bit of a kicking, but okay, why not? I think take it.
Apple and David Beckham, those poor bastards. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on.
You didn't kick him. Let's be clear.
So, when did you actually join Product Earth?
2019, the day after that show. So it was the bank holiday weekend.
So why did you decide to join Product Earth? As in, you know, like, you've got this wealth of experience. Yes, you love cannabis, but you've just left, you know, Facebook, and you've worked with the biggest companies out there. You know, you are, I want to say, on a trajectory. Why? And I see this as almost as a parallel road. It's not, stop me if I'm wrong, but I don't see it as part of the logical journey. Do you know what I mean? Like 22 years in big box industry to then go and work for an expo where you're almost starting to build something from scratch again. It doesn't.
It's a cheesy answer, but it is the truth. So at Facebook, I actually had a really good manager called John Steinbach, and he encouraged me to think about what my personal motto would be. You know, something that I kind of guide my life on. And again, it comes back to my love of mission statements and things like that. And I coached a lot of people, and I still mentor people today. And you know, the amount of people that will say, "Oh, I don't do this because I'm so scared of it," or you know, it's outside of my comfort zone, so I kind of avoid that. I stick to my strengths, and you know, there's a lot to be said for strength-based organizations and things like that. But the way that I look at these things, and I think the kind of the clearest example is when that first time you go and do like a big presentation. It's terrifying, right? You stand on stage, you can't swallow properly. You think you're going to throw up, maybe wet yourself. Who knows? It's just an absolute nightmare.
A little bit of pee always comes out. Like that first time you talk, whether you want to admit it or not, guys, anyone who's been there, they've done that. It's never like fully pee yourself, but there's always that little bit of pee, or you think you peed yourself. I mean, there's always that little bit of fear.
Isn't that fascinating?
No, not right now, as I'm not peeing myself right now. I'm 84 shows in.
Please stop. For God's sake.
But I mean, like the first expo I ever did, I stood on stage and I was like, Oh my God, I'm shitting myself. But I had it a few weeks ago. I married. I was the officiary at a wedding a few weeks ago. I officiated the wedding. I married two of my best friends.
What?
And there was so like
What are
in
you,
early
a
June.
are you a vicar or so? What are you? What,
No, so
what?
actually, I started it. I started the thing with, by the way, guys, I'm not a priest. I'm just a dude. Okay, that's the way I
How come
started
they're
it,
married
because I'm
then?
not a priest.
I'm so sorry, Matt.
they-
I apologize. I'm sorry. I can't let that go in show 83.
It's a thing. My mum's, not my mum, God, don't say that. My wife's mum, she's actually just become one as well, so she can now marry people for the non-religious
I
ceremonies.
don't know what to say. For the first time in 83 weeks, I'm
it was
speechless.
a non-religious. It was a
Everyone's doing it,
non-religious. It was a non-religious interracial, like interreligion wedding, and they didn't want to have anything cultural. They wanted a non-religious, non-cultural, non-ceremonial
Well,
ceremony.
you fit that bill, fella.
So
Yeah,
basically, I walked in. Rabbi
you.
Ollie walks into the room. Okay, hair down, like literally, they got married by
Like
Jesus.
Dave
It was incredible.
got married by Dave Grohl.
Exactly, they got
That's what
married
he
by
looks
Dave
like with his hair
Grohl.
down.
Yeah. So anyway, so I did the ceremony, and I'll be honest with you, literally, it was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. And I love
try doing
talking.
an hour and a half stand-up show all on your own.
I could do an hour and a half of stand-up. That doesn't
Could
bother
you?
me, because
Could you?
when people start
Really?
laughing at me, I want people to laugh at me. When people
Yeah.
start laughing at you and you're doing something serious, that is like a jab. You know what I mean? When the crowd laughs and they shouldn't be laughing, the little bit of pee comes out.
It's trying to be, it's like, hey, funny man,
Wow.
be funny right now. It's
That's
like,
it. Be funny now.
Oh,
Funny. Make me laugh.
Dance, monkey, dance. Really, that's what
Exactly.
that is. Yeah.
But yeah, so I
Interesting.
understand that
Okay.
little bit of a fear. I understand that
Yes.
little moment.
But
Russ doesn't get it because
over
Russ is a
time-
professional.
No,
the second
no.
time
Do you know
go-
other things absolutely scare the crap out of me? Other things absolutely terrify me, but not
The
that.
thing is, though, Russ, the second time you do it, you're not quite as scared. The third time, it's not quite as bad, and you're getting better and better. So actually, you shouldn't be running away from fear, because what you're doing is you're exercising a new muscle and getting stronger. You're growing as an individual. So you shouldn't run away from fear. You should embrace it. And so my motto is vulnerability is the fuel for growth. And so I'm looking at this opportunity. I wanted to invest in the cannabis business. The founder, James Walton, turned around to me and said, hey, look, do you know what? You actually might be the person we need to take this company from where we are today to the next one. Just a bit of professionalism. And I saw it as an opportunity to make myself vulnerable. I've never worked in events before. I've never worked in cannabis before. And so, at the start of a pandemic, I left my high-paid, secure job at Facebook to go and work at a cannabis event. And then we had COVID. So it was a rocky start, but I'm very, very glad that I did it. I've got to meet some amazing people, work in different ways. And I feel like I'm learning and growing every single day. What more
I
can
really
you ask?
like that. You moved on to my next point. So I was going to say the impact of COVID on organized gatherings. That was going to be my next point, because I know that's one thing which happened, and a lot of expos, unfortunately, have actually disappeared over the last 3-4 years, especially in our little cannabis industry, because it's not like they had a run of 30 years or 20 years or even 5 years before. A lot of these expos were on for 2, 3, 4 years. It's enough time to get recognition, but not enough time to be a staple. And
Will they
a
not
lot of
come
these
back?
expos
Are you
have
saying
suffered.
they've gone? They won't come back now.
They've gone, they've delayed, they've postponed. So, for example, it's supposed to be the CBD Awards in Barcelona next week, and that's just been postponed until October. It's been postponed 5 times already. Now, I'm sure it's going to happen, but, with the rise of COVID numbers and the fact that loads of flights are getting delayed.
It's
and the fact
diabolical.
that
You don't want to be going.
And
you really don't want to be going.
But then also the industry is, in a tough place at the moment. And there's been a lot of, like with novel food and with general international law changing, a crash in the price of CBD, less of an uptick on the marketplace because there's been this novel food restriction, which has stopped a lot of brands coming to market, educating new people. So it's like one domino hits another domino, which then knocks over the entire pile of them. But there's been a lot of issues in our industry. And like one thing I wanted to ask was, I actually went to Product Earth last year. So it was the first expo I attended post-COVID. And they put on such a good show. And it was so much more immersive and so much more entertaining than the average cannabis expo. Because the average cannabis expo is very much commercially focused. An example, I was at a cannabis expo recently and I was bouncing a ball in the room and I got asked to leave the expo. Someone had a really cool basketball on their stall. I picked up the basketball and I'm walking down the aisles, talking to people, bouncing the ball. And like, I'm quite good with the basketball. I know how to bounce a ball. And I'm bouncing it through my legs. And then someone comes up and says, don't do that. And I was like, what are you, the show organizer? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, shut up, you're not the fucking show organizer. And she was like, yeah, we are. And I was like, well, we're over there, we're exhibiting. They go, I don't care if you're exhibiting, get out. I was like, why? They go, health and safety. I was like, listen, okay.
Where was this?
Pause. I'm sorry. All right. Here's the ball. I've definitely done something wrong here. I didn't know you're the show organizer. I'm really, really, really sorry. And they're like, no, go take 5 minutes, come back in 5 minutes. I was like being told off by a teacher. So I went outside, had a cigarette, came back inside. And I was like, look, I really am sorry. And she was like, don't bounce the ball again. I was like, fine. Go to Product Earth. They've got glass blowers in the corner. They bring the balls. They've got a skate park outside. You've got people kicking footballs around. You know, like literally, I'm pretty sure there was an American football match going on in the actual, in the expo. I mean, like it is. It's such a.
No, that was just so people trying to get a cup of tea in the queue.
No, actually, like food was great. I mean, like completely took care of everyone.
Was it?
It was this community.
Matt, where is it? Where was it held?
It's at the National Agricultural Events Centre in Kenilworth, near Coventry. So bang in the middle of the country.
Oh, right. Okay.
But it was very nice.
The NFU's there, and you've got the Beekeeping Society. And so it is.
So, Ollie, would you take me with you if you go again?
Yeah, I would love to take you. I'll take you this summer. But basically, we'll go there in August. I'll drive you up there. You might love it. You might hate it. Either way.
I think you'll love it.
I think he'll have to love it because he's got no other way of getting home, has he? Anyway.
Oh, ha 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 ha
ha. So basically, so I went there and I felt really culturally immersed. Everyone was very friendly. The room was very warm. You know, like it was a warm room. Met a lot of people there. I found it very easy to start conversations. Yes, it was not for me, it was not a commercial event. It was a lot more cultural and it was a lot more, you could call it was a lot more fun than work. So I didn't go into that room with my business hat on. However, I did look around the room and there were loads of people doing business, making money, and, you know, like people who were there for that reason. It was quite nice to see that you can almost create a kind of a capitalistic as well as a cultural environment, which enables people to, you know, coexist. I kind of like that. It was something special. It was something special.
It's funny you say that because that's what we are trying to capture. You know, we're trying to be an accurate reflection of the cannabis industry as a whole at that moment in time. And you're right. You know, you can look around and there were multi-million-pound distribution deals happening at the show last year. I think Slapster, they seem to have done a deal with every single exhibitor there for packaging.
But Slapster are an incredible company. And to be honest with you, I actually saw Slapster recently. I saw them recently at another expo. And the owners of that company, the people who run it, they're actually nice people as well. They remember people. So I walked down and they're like, what's up, Ollie? And I was like, oh, shit, how you guys doing? You know, had a little chat. And they're like, listen, take some free shit. And they just gave me like a whole bunch of grinders and Rizzlers and loads of stuff. And they're like, by the way, when you need packaging, just let us know. And I was like, of course we'll let you know. But that's their way. They've just
dog bowl from Cookies from them last year.
Yeah,
they've always,
and it's just,
and their stand sticks out as well. They're really good at branding,
and their price is affordable.
Matt, you've come out of Facebook. I know a lot more about Facebook. I can only tell you after the show. I'm not going to discuss it right now. But you come out of that, and you will appreciate as a business person with the marketing that these days, as the world has gone raving mad, it is important to try and do business with people that you actually like rather than you just for pure commercial reasons. You know, absolutely. It comes back to reputation, but it also comes back to the fact that, I mean, Ollie's young, I'm not, that life is short, and working with people that you just actually don't like, but commercially it works out.
What's the point?
Always it's a bore, and it's a you know, a pain. You get so much more done. I don't know who these packaging people are, but look at that. You turn up at an exhibition, they remember your name.
Yeah, but they're also really terrific. Nice people. They offer a good service.
You know, that's
I'll tell you what it is as well. I was raised, unfortunately or fortunately, at a younger age and at an older age differently. So when I was younger, I was raised by my dad, and he was always said the same thing: work is work. Work's not meant to be fun. All right. And then later on in life, I think maybe when I hit 17, 18, it was, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, then there's no fucking point. All right. And that's basically it. And so I had two educations. It's very conflicting. It's very, very conflicting because part of me is like, work's work. and works in order to, you know,
But
build
it
a
is.
life, and life
But
is
it
what you
is.
enjoy. But in reality, work should be enjoyable. If you can enjoy your work and then you enjoy your life, then actually you wake up every day and you're happy.
No,
I mean, that's kind of the
summary,
secret, isn't it?
the summary is, Ollie, and I'm sure Matt would agree, it is that if you love what you do, you'll never work another day in your life, because it's
Right.
that work. That's always been my motto. I've always loved what I do, whether it was advertising, copywriting, marketing, writing books, or doing radio. I never ever think of it as work. And work is quite an onerous word. It's quite a pejorative term. It means, you know, you kind of think clocking on, clocking off, or going down a coal mine or something, you know, making rivets in the factory and dying of boredom. I get that. But there's also, your father was right, the great Claude, he was correct, Ollie, because there are disciplines which Matt has brought to his business. There are disciplines and things which do apply. It's not some hippy dippy nonsense where you hope it's going to work out. Look what happened to the Beatles when they tried to open the Apple store and the Apple business. It was a total disaster. You got to know what you're doing, and you got to be good at what you do.
Something that's quite interesting about the cannabis industry, you know, we've had a few people have kind of said this about us. It's you know, oh, they're going corporate. Oh, that's it. It's going corporate. It's the end. It's the end. But it's like, don't confuse professionalism and expertise with going corporate. You know, you'll find me high as a kite floating around the show. That's for sure. I'm not going to be wearing a suit. You know, that's,
I feel like you're a mind reader, because my next question was, how do you stay non-commercially focused in an industry that's moving that way? That is literally the next question, which basically you've just started. But how do you, like, even though you're, I want to say you're turning these commercial knobs in order to make it a structure where commercialists can make money, how do you still make the room a fun room? Like, how do you almost combine the both? Do you understand what I mean? Like, how do you?
I know exactly what you mean. And to be honest, it's quite simple. You put the customer first. You know, that customer experience is number one. If you have a happy customer, they will come back next year and they'll bring 5 of their friends. And then when you've got people in the right environment and you're connecting them with businesses that they wouldn't otherwise discover, because that's the limitation. You know, with a lot of the head shops, seed companies, you can't advertise on Facebook. You can't reach the audience where they are actually hanging out. So shows like Product Earth is one of the only ways you can actually connect with the, you know, the thousands of people that we have. And what we're doing now, I think I bore the team quite a lot. I kind of give them my marketing chit chat, and they will just glaze over. So I'll shut up, Matt. But we were talking about Product Earth in 2019. It's like, right, well, you know, this is what's happened. Everyone thinks we're making loads of money, and we're not. How are we going to grow this business? Because we have no money. And I think what I was trying to explain to people is, it's like saying, if you're Gucci, that your target audience is people with feet. It's just not the case. You know, just because you're a cannabis consumer doesn't mean you're going to enjoy Product Earth. So we have to expand it more. We have to make it more broadly applicable. And we want to grow beyond. I'd love it if people turned up that didn't consume cannabis. Or
because Product Earth primarily used to be a seed show, right? It used to be like seeds and hydroponics.
Well, do you know what it was? So we had 2. So there was one which is kind of dedicated to hydroponics, and one which is kind of dedicated to the head side of things. And this is because people had just kind of made up their own rules and were kind of policing themselves, because, you know, no one wants to get arrested for incitement of cultivation or anything like that. And that hasn't changed. But actually, you know, we've worked with lawyers just to find out exactly what can and can't be done. And there's absolutely nothing to say you can't have the 2 types of exhibitors under one roof. And last year was the first time we brought it all together, and the experience was just much better.
But there was also more last year. Last year, you also had things like the glass blowing zone, which I didn't think you had 2 years ago.
No,
and you also,
I think we've dabbled with it in the past.
There was
but it was
more commercial, so there was more culturalism last year. Because I'd been to Product Earth a couple of years ago. I don't know if I went to like the 2015, 2016. I went to one of them. 2017, I went to one of the shows. I can't remember which one it was. And I remember I was there for like an hour and a half. Okay. And I wasn't there for long because there wasn't much in the room that really appealed to me. Do you know what I mean? Whereas last year, I came for the day and I stayed for the weekend. And I remember it was really nice. I just, like, don't get me wrong, there were a few, it was the first expo post-COVID. So there was that little bit of fear everyone had. But generally, I remember like sitting on the grass and meeting friends, like meeting people. I remember like I was sitting down one day and I met this dude who I'd only ever met through Instagram. We ended up chilling for like 2.5 hours, getting a bit high and just kind of having a nice little interaction. It was really lovely. And now I'm still friends with this dude. We speak now on the phone like real human beings. And it's quite... It was nice to kind of be in that room. I really enjoyed the glass blowing section. You know, I'm a big supporter of different bits of glass, so I really enjoyed that part, and I enjoyed the fact that you're almost bringing the art cultural side into it.
Have you ever been to a glass blowing, like not a factory? I used to have to go to factories in Germany. I don't mean that. It's hell. But when they're blowing beautiful pieces of, have you ever done that, Ollie?
Yeah, so
it's magnificent.
But that's what Matt has at the show. He has a glass blowing. He has like 9 or 10 different glass blowers creating the most beautiful pieces.
To watch.
It's incredible.
Oh my god!
So we've got, actually, it's funny you say that. We've actually got some shooting going on right now with NPK Media, who kind of do a lot of our production for the show. And we are filming some of the artists who are just starting some of the glass work right now, which they're going to finish at the show. Which people can buy.
Wow. Do you know a chap called Peter Layton?
Say that again, sorry, Russ.
Peter Layton. Do you know Peter Layton? George Layton's brother. The most wonderful glass creator.
Well, we've got the Hashins are organising all the glass blowers for this year.
Oh, that's great.
It's
fantastic to watch, isn't it? It's like magic.
It really is like magic.
Absolutely like watching magic. You think
it really
is just terrific.
And like you said, Ollie, we're the art side of things. You know, that's really kind of deep down in the culture of everything behind cannabis and behind this plant is art. You know, it's very visual. You enjoy sound, you enjoy visuals more when you are stoned. It's just a fact. And so we had this little idea of introducing a gallery with a silent auction. And it has blown up. We have got so many artists sending in their work. So we are going to have a gallery at Product Earth now where you can bid to actually win some of this artwork. One of the pieces is going to be worth over £1,000. I don't know where this has all come from, but it's just great to be able to offer something back to the community. And you're going to see loads of bits and pieces, loads of new developments. I mean, when you wake up in the morning now, there's going to be 4 things that you can do before you even go to the show. You can have a gong bath, you can do yoga, you can do breath work, and of course you can go foraging. And then after your foraging, you come back and you'll do a food demonstration showing you how to prepare the food that you've foraged, because, you know, this is what our culture is. And this is the beauty from a marketing standpoint, and just the beauty of cannabis consumers is they're bloody everywhere. You can cut through every single demographic and there will be a cannabis consumer there. And it's something that just brings people together, and you can just see that they think a little bit differently. And I love that.
You're also bringing medical cannabis into the play this year, aren't you?
Absolutely. So we started it last year and we had a few different brands, which was awesome. Again, you know, I was told, don't do it. Please don't do it. The activists will hate it. And
can I ask, because Ollie knows that the medical side of it is really my main interest. The rest of it is sort of fun, but the medical side is of great interest to me. Why were and you just said something, the activists were against it? What does that mean?
So,
and why?
Ollie and I
do you want me to say it so you don't sound like a dick, Matt? Do you want me to say it? So no, because I don't want you getting in trouble. I don't want you getting in trouble with your audience.
Let me have a quick. I'll have a quick stab at it, Ollie, and then you could just bombard people with your kind of version of it. But it's one of the first things that I noticed when I started working in the industry is that the activists, the people that are putting their head above the press of it, everyone wants the same goal, but they all want to do it slightly differently. And because people want to do things slightly differently, there's infighting. And ironically, that's why they just don't make that much progress. If there was more collaboration, people would do much better. And medical cannabis, or medicinal cannabis, because some would say you shouldn't even call it medical cannabis, you should call it medicinal or prescription. These nuances, people get really upset about these things. But because it's only available on a private prescription, and let's be honest, the patients that require it probably can't afford the private prescription, it causes issues. And so then it kind of spills over into arguments about the quality of the product. So last year, there was this Noidex scandal where there was bud rot in the flower. And everyone's like, well, this is why you should go to your dealer rather than to a clinic. But at the end of the day, the fact that it got recalled, that's not a problem. That's symptomatic of a system that works, because the dealer's not going to recall a product.
I'm
because
sorry,
it's not
what was in the flour? I missed that word.
bud rot. So if a product isn't
Like a
stored
mold.
correctly or dried and cured correctly, the buds will start to rot, and they can create pathogens that when you consume them can be very, very bad for you.
Dangerous.
So what we did, and there were a few issues last year in the world of medical cannabis or medicinal cannabis. We had mislabeling of products, which is obviously a bad one. Obviously, these pathogens being on there. In Germany, it was a big deal where people have CBD flower and they spray it with synthetic cannabinoids to give you that effect, but it's horrible for you. And then there was some lighter stories, like a chap went to Legoland and he was just like, hey, can I bring my medicine with me? I have a prescription. And they said, yes. And you're like, oh, eureka, the world is changing and the stigma's going. And they're like, but you've got to go and smoke it over there in the smoking area. You wouldn't say that to a diabetic. Go under that bridge next to that heroin addict and into the medicine. But why would
If I was at Lego, but if, in all seriousness, I get that. Because again, it loops back to customer facing. If I was a customer, if I had little kids and I was at Legoland and somebody's smoking, I'm going to be hacked off. I'm going to be absolutely straight up about it. I don't want to, I don't want to see that. So I understand from them as a corporation that they're looking after the customer. But I take your point that, if you had blood pressure and you took some pills, you take them wherever you want. I get that.
And this
I
is
get that. So it's tricky.
You can't
very
smoke
tricky.
a joint. If you have a prescription and you roll up a joint and smoke it, that's illegal. It has to be vaporized. So you're not talking about.
So do you know, similar to what you're hitting in the vape pen I made you? So theoretically, you could get something similar to that, but it's THC, not CBD. And if you saw someone casually smoking one of those in Legoland, you wouldn't lose your shit. You wouldn't care, Russ. I know you think you would care. You wouldn't even notice. You wouldn't notice.
That'd be mean.
And it's. I understand the whole diabetic injecting insulin, heroin addict injecting heroin. I understand the analogy. I also understand Russ's view, because Russ think you've got a whole bunch of people sitting on the floor at Legoland, passing around joints or passing around a bong, getting stoned off their tits, and the whole idea of kids and parents who aren't in the know, who still view it as illegal, will then end up losing their minds, and you end up having this, internal debate.
And it's difficult because you've got some people then that feel that they have a prescription, so it's their right to be able to consume their medicine wherever they are. And so, they will sit next to a child and vaporize it. It's like, come on, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. But this is what we addressed in the show last year. So we addressed all of these problems. I believe we were the first event to ever have a medical cannabis consumption zone. So there's no combustion allowed at all in those areas. We had testing equipment, so you could actually put your prescribed medicine under there. Everything has to be prescription. Obviously, we're a 100% legal show. So when we talk about flour and things like that, it's someone's prescription. It's legal medicine. But we allow people to put it under this thing called the Dankoscope. They need to change the name of it, but the Dankoscope, which allowed them to see their flour up close. So you could see, are there animals walking around on it? Are there synthetic crystals that stick out? So that was really good. And then you could test, do you have the right cannabinoid profile of your medicine? And there was a few people, I believe, when my back was turned, that did it with their recreational, non-prescription cannabis. And they're like, oh, well, my mate grows this, so it's going to be amazing. It turns out, actually, there was something in there that they didn't realize, and it had synthetic crystals on there. So it kind of proved the point. But this year, we're going to step it up again. And one of the things that I hear a lot about, and I'm really, really sensitive to this. And actually, for patients in particular, I hope they realize we've gone above and beyond this year to make them feel as welcome as possible. But consultations cost a fortune, hundreds of pounds. And obviously, all the rates vary from one clinic to the next, but it's a problem. It's a barrier to entry. And so I secured one yesterday. So Dr. Sunny from Integro and Grow is going to be coming to the show and is actually going to be holding consultations with patients free of charge.
Oh, amazing.
So
that's amazing.
That's the step that we're trying to take to help people get access to legal cannabis. People shouldn't have to break the law to get their medicine.
That's a terrific thing. And that, by the way,
brilliant.
Matt, what you've just said, Matt, is a theme that Ollie and I have discussed with Ollie's guests for 83 weeks. And because I came into this knowing zero, which was always my plan, I was stunned, shocked, upset, and basically outraged that people with very sick children had to break the law. I mean, it's a nonsense. It's a nonsense. It's immoral. I'm not even on the legal side, just in university laws and morality. It's shocking.
But then I guess the other side to the argument now is it's not just these horrible videos that you see of children having seizures and things like that. There are people suffering every single day, sometimes with conditions that you can't even see, that should have access to this magical plant. And to be honest, it should be available on the NHS. And that's what I'm striving for. You know, I want to support all the private clinics. I said it when I was speaking on Simper's podcast a week or so ago, that any of the medical brands that are turning up to Product Earth, they should be celebrated, because not only are they taking the bold step to come to an event which does have a recreational component and make themselves vulnerable, but they're there listening, and they actually want to understand from prospective patients what can they be doing to make things better. And I think that's really cause for celebration. So if you do see them, if you do come to the show, please make sure you say nice things to them, because they're all really good people.
So one thing I want to add is, so it's back onto this activist thing. You know, like, I try and listen to a lot of the activists who talk. I've given a lot of them platforms. You know, partly I do agree with what they say, but I agree with what they say in the sense that I understand where they're coming from. And what I found with a lot of activists is they don't want to understand where anyone else is coming from. And I think it's quite important that we all lend each other ears, and we all lend each other a little bit of patience, because like, if you actually take a second and actually listen to someone else's story, you will understand why their story has affected their decisions and why their story has affected the way they think. But it works on the other side as well. And a lot of patients who, you know, an activist might say, well, you know, you're wrong going down the system. That patient feels more comfortable in the system. That activist doesn't. Now, the same way that I understand why the activist doesn't feel safe, I understand why the patient does. And it's very important that the activist and the patient also understand why the other one is living the life which they've chosen. You know, we're never going to be able to all make the same decisions. We're never all going to think the same way, because we're all different people. We all have our own journeys. But in reality, there is a place for all of us. There is a place for all of us. There is a place for all of us to have our opinions. And it's not about who's right and who's wrong. We all want the same goal. It's just my way or your way. The same way we all have that in everything we do. And I wake up, have a cup with 2 sugars. You might think that's mental. You might want it. You know, you might only drink cappuccinos. You might not drink coffee at all. You might be a matcha green tea drinker. Doesn't make you wrong. Doesn't make me right. It's just my choice in the way I decide to live. And it's quite important that you and me and them and us, we all kind of respect each other, because as long as we're fighting each other, you know, the people around us who are trying to stop us can, you know, their work's been done. Because if we're battling each other, we can't progress forward. And the only way we progress forward is to accept and to understand that others will not think like us. And we as a group need to have this eclectic mix of opinions and push that forward as a group, knowing that we think differently, but knowing that we want the same things.
Well, it's nice
It's
to
the same
see,
as politics.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see companies like CanCard doing so well. You know, I'm sure you've probably spoken to Carly. You probably had her on the show. She's an amazing human.
I actually haven't had Carly on the show. I actually haven't had Carly on the show. What
are you doing? What is this tin pot show?
So do you actually want to know the honest truth?
Go on.
I don't think Carly likes me very much.
Oh, I can see why.
Then we don't like her.
I don't think Carly likes me very much. I think she's one of the only ones. She's one of the only ones, but I don't think she likes me, because she's the only person to ever not respond to my Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, phone calls, texts, emails, and connections through other people.
Yeah, I'd take the hint there, I'd take the hint.
But I like Carly. I think she's onto something very good. I think she's a very strong girl. I just know full well that I think she hates me. There was a little thing maybe 3-4 years ago where she demonstrated at our stall at an expo, and I think ever since then she hasn't really liked me. But I think she's like very brave, and I think she's awesome for standing up and basically.
And what she's doing with CanCard is she's actually bringing together both sides.
She hates me. I know she hates me. I know she hates. This is really funny that you brought that, but I know she hates me. But yeah, she's cool. She hates me.
I think that's absolutely hilarious. That's made my day.
No, literally, I can't stop smiling. I'm thinking, like, because also it's that
she was
what sort of tin pot show you have? Is I've tried, but she wants nothing to do with me. But it's okay. We can actually have a bit of fun. Let's set up an interview. Let's set up a blind interview at Product Earth and force her to be on stage with me. Let's see what
Or
happens.
you could just let me go and have a nice chat with her. You know?
No, I can. I've actually tried before. I've actually extended a handshake to her before, and I think she literally turned around and walked in the other direction.
Jeez.
Well, that doesn't
What the
sound
hell
like
have
the
you
kind
done
of-
to this woman?
No, I tell you what it is. So she's very.
Wow.
A few years ago, we represented a brand called Ignite, and at one of the expos, a couple of called it the Women in Cannabis were very anti-Ignite, and they ran a little demonstration against Ignite. And I want to say, but to be honest with you, Callie Blackwell was one of those girls. Callie Seaman was one of those girls, and I get on with both of them. I think Hannah Deacon even did it, and Hannah Deacon, I
they've
get
all
on
been
with
on the
all of them. I
show.
like them all. I
They've all
respect
been
them all.
great.
But Carly hates me. I'm pretty sure. And if I'm wrong, then
you know
I'll
what
get
I
Carly on
think?
the show.
I think she's secretly in love with you and can't.
I don't think she's in love with me. I don't think I'm her type.
No, love and hate, very thin line.
I don't think I'm her type.
But yes, anyway, but what she's doing, the work she's doing, I actually believe is an example where she is bringing people together. And I think that's formidable work. So good on her, and she'll be at the show.
And also, look, she's got a great following. She gives people an ability to stand proud. She's given people an ability to stand tough. And I think it's very smart. I think it's very, very smart. And all of this community building and all of this, one trying to protect another, I think it is quite beautiful. I think it's quite beautiful.
Absolutely.
What's your favorite part of Product Earth?
Do you know what? I love so much of it. I really like when it's all setting up. That buzz is crazy, and we're kind of finding our flow a little bit. We have little rituals, and so Neil Bellum from In Any Event Catering, he does all our food and beverage stuff. On the first night, he cooks these ridiculous steaks for us, and we all kind of sit down and we all just get ready for the storm that is coming, and that's really, really nice. When you're actually shutting it all down, it's kind of a bit miserable. You're exhausted, your feet hurt, but actually you're kind of like, oh, it's over for another year. How sad. But just seeing everyone have such a great time, and the fact that you brought so many people together, it's an achievement. I love that about cannabis. I mean, look, we can always do better with diversity, and I'm not up for forcing diversity, but when you look around the show and you do see everybody there, and it's one of the first things. I want to have more women at the show for sure, and they are underrepresented in the industry, which is a crying shame.
Completely unrepresented in our industry, underrepresented.
And this is why we're doing things for women this year. So obviously we'll have women in business talks, and actually that's looking to be, that's a powerhouse of women we've got on that panel. But things like, understanding your menstrual cycle and leveraging your superpowers and stuff like that. I think these are all interesting things that work very well with cannabinoids. And so it's not obtuse. It should feel quite organic. And I want, women to feel that it is a safe place to come and have a great time. We've actually got quite a few people that come to Product Earth just by themselves to meet people, which is quite nice. Maybe we should do like a Product Earth kind of Tinder date.
Speed dating. Brilliant.
To be honest with you, I actually reckon that would do really well. I reckon, you've got like all the stoner girls, all the stoner guys getting together, exactly what they're looking for. You know what I mean? It could be interesting, or it will be an absolute disaster.
Yeah, but what would happen? They go, "You've got 3 minutes." No, but Ollie, they got 3 minutes to go. What do you do for a living? What? What did you do for a living? I
don't be mean, Russ.
Talking to me? Who? What? Who?
Russ, I'm going to get you so stoned at Product Earth this year. I'm going to get you stoned. I'm going to leave you there. Okay? No, because you are. Because I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to leave you in a room, stoned off your tits, like a maze. See if you can get out.
Sounds like a fun afternoon.
No, I'll take it. I think from a cultural perspective, it'll be interesting for you to see. I think be able to see.
I only just want to lift in your lift-up Jeep. That's the only thing. The rest. That's the only point.
We'll do that as well. So have you ever thought about doing more than one event a year?
It comes up a lot. So, we're in talks of even having a show in Thailand. We thought that would be an interesting place. But we go back and forwards a lot. At the moment, we're slated to create another show for 2024. It is likely to be somewhere in Europe. I like the idea of having a Hiberia type show, which would be quite nice to compete with, the likes of Spanibus and things like that. But what I want to do, I think we've got to get the show right first. We're going to see 4,500 people this year. We should have 10,000, 20,000 people there. And that's when you've got something right that you can kind of repackage and put elsewhere. Were you at 420 this year in Hyde Park?
I didn't go. I didn't go, unfortunately.
Russ, just in case you're not aware, it's this kind of half celebration, half protest for the change in legislation for cannabis. And it happens all around the world. Okay. And there are tens of thousands of people
in Hyde Park. Hyde Park, like literally, it was insane.
It was, and it's quite interesting because you see all the police there, and you're like, oh, here we go. Oh, the police are going to arrest us. The police don't care. They don't want to arrest you with your small bag of weed in your joint. They really don't. And they
don't want the paperwork. Apart from anything else, they generally don't want the paperwork. They've got enough to do. They don't just...
Exactly. They've got actual criminals to go after rather than people that like a plant. But they had signs up there saying, after 5 p.m. And this is the thing with messaging, and you'll see it in Product Earth, the way we talk about things. It's not what you say, it's what you don't say. And they're saying, after 5 p.m., if you're caught with drugs, you'll be moved along. They're not saying you're going to get arrested. But what they're actually saying is, up until 5 p.m., have at it.
It's a subtext, isn't it? It's not what's said, it's what's not said. It's a subtext.
It's always the people that misbehave and, run up to the police, put a joint in their face. They have to do something about that because it is illegal. Just act with a bit of care,
decorum.
And decorum. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's
a little bit of class and respect goes a long way when you're trying to get around a system. Do you know what I mean? Please and thank yous. A little bit of politeness really do help when you want to break a law. And it's
what Russ was saying earlier. You don't want to work with people that are idiots. You don't want to work for kind of people with bad reputation. If you're one of those people,
you also don't want to do favors. Like as a human being, no one wants to do favors for anyone who pisses them off. You only want to do favors for people who you want to do favors for. And it's that whole idea as a community, as an industry, we need to almost be better so they can be better to us. Do you know what I mean? Like we need to...
I always worry about activists because activists it's like a heartbeat away from fanatic. And it's a thin line sometimes.
It's difficult because these activists are activists for a reason. They've been personally impacted for some reason about something that grows naturally. To be honest, what's the harm in someone growing a couple of plants at home?
No. You'll have no argument from me. We had that wonderful chap on,
Philip Anthony Bevington.
God, that still haunts
who actually
me.
was at your show last year. I actually met that was what was very nice. That was what was very nice about Product Earth, because we started the ABC of CBD in the middle of lockdown. We started it in September 2020, so it was like 5 months into lockdown already. And it wasn't until last summer, so like it would have been like 9 months later, that I actually had the ability to meet so many of my guests face to face. Now I already knew Phil Monk. I knew him from previous years. But so many, like Christopher Tasker, I never met him face to face before, and I met him at your show. Philip Anthony Bevington, never met him personally before, met him at your show. Several other individuals in the industry as well, who I just which was great. Who did I meet? I met all of the Project 21 team. The T21 team, who were like awesome. I mean, like the warmest people, and it was really nice to kind of almost cross paths with people who I don't have the ability to. I don't have the luxury of seeing on a regular basis, and I feel like I actually had time to sit with them and speak with them because no one had their commercial hat on. No one was in this, I need to go out there and find a deal. It wasn't that sort of expo. It was a lot more community focused. And I really did enjoy just walking around the room and making friends, making friends with faces. And that's what was probably the most...
Music's my ears.
Don't worry, me and Carly will be best mates one day, okay?
Yeah.
My mouth to the
I'm
radio
already buying
gods'
a hat. I'm already buying a new hat. Matt, we got like a minute
left.
Give me your vision. Give me your parachute view, your helicopter view of your vision for the next 5 years for Product Earth.
The next 5 years, we are going to expand the show with more experiences that really kind of capture what the culture behind this magical plant is all about. We will be going international without a shadow of a doubt. And I want to do more to help people up and down the country, their various projects. We're now in a privileged position. So if there's anyone out there that works in the cannabis industry that needs the support of Product Earth, I urge you to reach out to us, written to me, one of the team. And yeah, we'd love to do something with you.
Amazing.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
It
so
sounds
much
like
for
you got a
coming on the
great
show.
thing. It sounds like you got a great thing going there. And it marries up your enthusiasm, your interest, but it also marries up your undoubted professional skill, which is it's a terrific combination.
You are very kind, Russ. I knew I'd like you.
I also want to say one thing, guys. You know, as someone who has been to Product Earth, it is unlike every other expo out there. You know, it might be for you, it might not be for you, but I really do suggest you go and check it out, because it does offer something different that the rest of the expos, which I've been to internationally outside of California, don't seem to offer. And I feel like it's a great eye opener to the inner workings of our community. So, you know, I look forward to seeing everyone there. And Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show.
That's where we have to leave it. Matt, Clifton, thank you so much. Ollie, always a pleasure, never a chore. Try and stay out of trouble, everybody. See you.